is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. We'll match you with the perfect buddy. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
We're offering you a free membership, so please sign up today. Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Haiti borders with the Dominican.
Her name is Serena Buffalino. They call her Mrs. B, and her class always begins with a pledge.
Something local, something global. Haiti.
They're words that carry weight here. Helping yourself means helping others, giving back, here and a world away in Haiti.
And nobody's helping them, except for people like us.
It was through her the class learned of Haiti, of the nearly 1 million orphans, many with no school, no support, no Mrs. B in their lives.
They could not wrap their head around that.
Mrs. B's students are among Toronto's most at risk. Their challenges vary from emotional and behavioral difficulties to learning disabilities. Their trauma so severe they can't function in a regular school setting, and we aren't allowed to show most of their classmates.
For most of the kids, most of society has turned them away. And in this classroom, they're accepted. They're accepted no matter what for who they are.
Take Yolanda. She came here last year so burdened and withdrawn, she would often fall silent, sometimes for days on end. It was, she says, Mrs. B's patience, her quiet encouragement, that saved her.
She actually saves people's lives from dangers.
And perhaps that's why these marginalized kids feel such a kinship with the orphans of Haiti, and why they were moved to act.
And so when Yolanda and Jackie and Patrick said, well, Miss B, we need to build them a school.
Build a school, no easy task. They started out raising money. They sold samosas, washed cars, screened movies, you name it. And in just a few months, this little class raised $20,000. So much, it's not just a one-room schoolhouse they can build, but a full 3-story school. And so Mrs. B set off on a journey she'd dreamed of, up into the dusty mountains above Port-au-Prince to a town called Canaan. It's home to thousands of earthquake refugees who live with no running water, no electricity, and no school, until now. The first step was a temporary school. It's up and running, 53 students already in uniform. The permanent school for 250 is growing from its foundations.
It makes me want to cry because she just makes me feel so awed, and I'm very proud of her.
All of this because of a handful of students back in Canada, and Mrs. B, the teacher who believed in them.
These are for you.
At another fundraiser, a special tribute to the students, accepted by someone who without Mrs. B might not be here.
They believe in me and I believe in them, and together we not only change our lives, but we change the world around us.
For inspiring great things and seeing the potential in everyone, Serena Buffalino is this week's Everyday Hero.
This is the reason why I do what I do, is because of Yolanda and all the
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Okay, I'm not showing.
Good morning, and good morning. How are we doing this? It is Thursday. Can you believe we are one day, well, really 1.5 days away from 2022? 2022. I just cannot believe it. I've been hearing that from everybody. Everybody I talk to, everybody that I've been interviewing with, everybody that I've been like just basically around, and they're like, Barbara, we got 2 more days. We got 2022. I was like, I know. So, I was telling myself the other day, I said, this is where, and I'm going to be, I'm always vulnerable and open with everybody because, you learn from sometimes Barbara's mistakes or what she goes through in life. And one of the things that I started getting just a little bit, okay, I'm not going to say a little, it was more than a little bit, okay? If I want to be, like I said, let's be raw. I was getting a lot of nervousness. And you're probably maybe thinking, why was she nervous? Well, I was nervous because I was thinking, I haven't got some things done I wanted to get done. I went in that cycle that I keep telling other people not to do. See, you know how long, when you're younger and, your parents might say, do as I say, don't do as I do. And until this day, that when you think about it, that doesn't make any sense. It's like how, we're always saying, be an example. If you're going to be a leader, even as a parent, if you're going to say, okay, Barbara, young Barbara at the time, don't do that. But then you're sitting there puffing on a cigarette. Well, either you hide yourself or you just say, you know what, you're going to have to make those decisions when you get older, somewhere down the line. But just don't sit there and come down on me, yell at me, tell me what I shouldn't do. And you're not showing such a good example yourself. But did I dare to say that to my mother? Now I'm going back in time to my mother when she was doing that. Heck no. See, Barbara knew better. Because soon as if I would have opened my mouth, any kind of hesitation like that, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today on this show, because she would have been like, okay, I just knocked you out of life. So I knew better. But I was going back to me and thinking about my goals and things that I was trying to accomplished. And I said, wait a minute, Barbara, you always tell people, look, if it didn't get done and what did get done was supposed to be. Basically, that's all you have to say to yourself. If you didn't get it done, I know you had this action item list and you had everything in your head saying, okay, I need to get this done. Today's the day and everything. And then things happen. Life happens. And you have to say that to yourself. And then you have to adjust and tweak. Because if there was some things that you really wanted to kind of get done, you kind of just look back, glaze back a little bit and say, okay, what made it where I didn't get certain things done or I didn't even start the project? Don't beat yourself up. You're just doing an analysis of yourself to make sure that, okay, moving forward, especially now we're going to a new year, just put it on your bucket list or your list or whatever list that you call it and tell yourself, I am going to make sure I put it somewhere on my action plan so maybe I can see to get it done at that time. And then if it's still having some challenges, then you got to tell yourself, okay, maybe I need to delegate some of this. Or is it really that important? Sometimes some things you put on your action item, it might not be so important. That's why you just keep on saying, okay, well, I'm not getting it done. Or it's very important and you're trying to avoid it because it's going to take forever. And it's going to take forever. You're like, I'm doing the avoidance party. I'm avoiding. But, either way it goes, you need to be real with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Make a strategic, just a strategic way to say, how can I get this done? And if you need help, if you need to, like I said, ask for the help. I've been doing that a lot lately. I've been looking at different things what people do. I look at the experts and I say to myself, I'm not an expert in that field. Let me ask. Let somebody guide me. We're always continuously learning, especially when you have your own business. So don't be afraid to open and ask those questions. Now, with that said, I need to bring up an expert right now, Miss Laura Armstrong, so she can give you some tools and tips that she has a day. And then I'll be back with my other guests further this morning. So here we go with Mrs. Laura. But I got to introduce her first again.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. I'm glad I made it this morning. There was some technical stuff going on, but hey, we're good to go. So excited to be here today. This is our last session for the year. So I wanted to kind of do something today that's going to help you to step into next year with strength and power and success. So today we're going to talk about how to manage expectations. Now, there are a couple sides of how I feel about expectations. The first one is that I really do feel that expectations are just premeditated disappointments, right? And you're setting yourself up for failure on one hand. But regardless, people are going to have them regardless. So if you learn how to manage them before they even come up, you're going to save yourself a lot of time, money, aggravation, and frustration, right? Because you'll already be dealing with any objections that people have or expectations. Now, there are different types of expectations that I want to talk about today. I got a couple things that I want to talk about on this subject. The first one is technological expectations. So these expectations are based on the technical aspect of the things that you do. And, like today I had a problem getting on with my camera. So I can't anticipate that, but I'm expecting it's going to work. So I have to go back and I have to manage it, right? So that's kind of something we do every day. And we actually don't realize that we do it. It's just like, okay, I got to solve this problem because this is something that I need and it's necessary, right? So if you want to wake up thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? The camera's going to mess up today. Then, you're just setting yourself up for a whole lot of stress and failure before anything's even happened. So don't set yourself up for failure, but be ready to change the way you manage the expectation of that. So if a problem happens, you're able to turn it around and move forward. Okay. The next expectation is based on a situation. For someone that maybe you're dealing with, a customer, a product. Since each actually situation is individual, it can be different for each person. So expectations can be changing all the time, right? So it's like, how do you prepare for that? Well, you just know what you know, and you know how to problem solve, with experience, understanding, and education. The next is static or dynamic performance expectations. And these are based on the quality of performance of the end product of a particular situation, right? So how things could be changed, adapted, or customized, or a whole bunch of other things. It also depends how the product or service changes, right? So for instance, if you offer a course, you've taken out something in the course because it's not relevant anymore. What are you replacing it with? Because people may have been expecting that, right? So these product and service changes, they can improve or evolve over a period of time. When I was teaching Reiki, I have a good story about this. Like I taught it maybe 6-7 times. And then I'm like, wait a minute here. Some of the information here isn't resonating. We need to up level what I'm offering. So we took some stuff out and we added more pertinent stuff in, right? And, this was within guidelines that were updated with my organization. So that's a perfect example of not having expectations. The best is when people come in and they don't know what they know. They don't know, right? So they're like, yeah, this is great. But they didn't know the old way of doing it, whereas opposed to a student coming in and saying, oh, well, you did this last time. Why didn't you do that now? Because they were expecting that, right? Then you have to be able to explain yourself. Okay. So generally, how do you manage expectations? So you want to set initial expectations as early as possible. So basically, let's say, for instance, I am starting up one of my 12-week courses. Okay. I go over what each week we're doing. I let them know the agenda. I let them know what they need for the Q&A, that they have worksheets, that we're going to be talking, we're going to be recording it. I try to manage all of the expectations right from the beginning. So no one, it could also be date changes or a change in the schedule or the Zoom link. It could be anything. So the sooner that or earlier that I set those expectations, the less conflict or the less disruption I'm going to have in what I'm doing, because people are knowing that I'm going to deliver what I said I'm going to deliver. So you want to set initial expectations as early as possible. And that's by, advising people of everything that you're doing as soon as you can, right? That's just smart, right? The second part of that is be able to communicate and provide an update of any changes, right? So for instance, in my 8th week, I say, look, I've got another course coming up. We're only working together the next 4 weeks, but in week 10, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it. So they know in week 10, we're going to have that conversation. Or for instance, if I'm doing a free 3-day leadership challenge, I'm going to be like, at the end of the 3 days, I'm going to let you know how to continue working with me. So people don't feel like I'm spamming on them and they're expecting something, right? So the more upfront, authentic, vulnerable, and open that you are about what you're doing, the easier it will be to manage expectations, because there's nothing hidden. There's nothing unexpected. And there's nothing that's not been brought to light, right? Now, there are things that you can control that sometimes you got to change things at the last minute. Everybody understands those things happen. It's just the way reality is in this world, right? Like, it's ever changing. But if as long as you're a good communicator about it and you let people know that in the language that they understand, in their values, you're going to be good to go. The next would be the best thing you can do is under promise and over deliver on expectations. So a good strategy is to keep expectations under check. Agree to goals that you can easily achieve. So these are the outcomes here. I know for sure if you do this, you're going to have this. But you know in your own what you're offering that you're going to be able to deliver a lot more than what you're promising, because this will be to your advantage when you finally deliver more than you promised, right? I know that so many people going through my courses are going to get at least the minimum of what I say they're going to get. If they do the work, they're going to have the shift. If they don't, they're not, right? If they do what I do, they're going to have my results. If they do something else, they're going to have different results. So I make sure that I under promise and I over deliver and I give extra. And then I do an extra session at the end that I don't really tell them about until we're getting close to the end. I'm going to do a bonus session with you guys. I'm going to offer you this, this, and this because I really want to see you succeed. So I'm over delivering, right? The last one here is don't over manage expectations. So we can often go too far out to manage expectations and we end up stressing ourselves out. So don't stress yourself out over what other people's expectations are for you. Each person has their own expectations and you can't deliver it all, right? So focus on what you can deliver, where your expertise is, where your why is, and get them to see your point of view, right? And set real expectations at a realistic level. Because a lot of the time, like I've had this happen, your biggest stumbling block is yourself. So keep your own expectations under check. And the other part of that is people are like, oh my gosh, she knows so much about it. She knows everything. And that is not the way it works. I know what I know because of what I've learned and experienced, right? And you know what you know because of what you've learned and experienced. So I'm hoping to pass on what I know to you so that you can move forward in what you do. You can take what you need from me and move forward. But I can't be everybody's be all catch all, right? So don't have expectations about people. Just make sure that when you're working with them, they're delivering what they promise. And if they over deliver, great. But if they under deliver, that's where you're going to have problems. Okay. All right. So a couple of steps to manage expectations that I kind of talked about. So the first one would be planning properly. Make sure you got all your ducks in a row. Set out your objectives. What are your goals? Okay, for this set time or for this event or for whatever it is that you're running. And give a final date of completion, right? So we want to have, so this is what we're going to do. These are the objectives and it's going to be done by this date. Okay. And then what you do is you set the guideline for authority. I am the instructor here, or however you want to voice it. If you have any problems, come to me. Don't come to it's okay to work with your other people in the course, but if you have questions, come to me, right? So that you're setting hierarchy early in what's going on, so that they know that you're the go-to person, that as the instructor, they're going to come to you instead of asking people in the class. Because I've seen it happen where the instructor is not prepared and they can't give answers. So they go looking to their peers who don't know any more than you know, usually a lot of the time. But the person shouldn't have been teaching the course that they were doing because they couldn't manage the expectations, right? And you want to be accountable for what you're offering them, right? You're not passing the buck or anything like that. So make sure that they're clear about that. And the next is communication priorities, right? Like of what needs to be done when it needs to be done, right? And communicating effectively to each other and not letting problems accumulate or gather steam, that you're dealing with things and nipping them in the bud, right? And also communication completion expectations, right? So when we finish, this is what's going to happen. If you want to work with me, we can do this, right? Have a realistic view about things. Like keep it real. Don't just, promise the moon and then you can't deliver. That's setting yourself up for failure, and there's nothing good about that. Trust me. Keep people motivated. They are there with you for a reason. You have something they want. So make sure that you've got them. I say, look, if you're coming my course, I am not going to force you to do anything, but I will stand beside you every step of the way to make sure that you succeed as long as you do the work. right? So I keep them motivated. And when things come up for them, we have a conversation around that, right? And we work through it, right? So I'm not giving them like therapy, but the fact of the matter is we go and learn and, participate with other things and engage in other activities because we're growing as individuals. You have to remember that when you're teaching. Okay. Avoid micromanagement. Nobody has time for it. Honestly, you probably got enough on your plate. You don't need to be micromanaging people. Let them, if they're thinking a certain way, let them fail because they're going to learn that and then they'll come back. You got to let them go through the process of the learning. And not all of it is happy and go lucky and positive. Some of it can be a bit of a struggle, right? And the struggle can actually lead to greater things. So it's okay to see people struggle or work with people who are having a hard time. Just be there to support them when they need you. Okay. And involve everybody in setting the expectations, because if you don't, you're going to have confusion. You're going to have, poor quality of them completing things. You're wasting time, and they're going to lose interest, right? And those aren't things that you want happening, right? You want to make sure that everybody stays upbeat and on things, and a couple other things I just want to talk here before we close up. First of all, make no assumptions. People often get into hot water when they assume someone knows what they expect or even what they're talking about. Make sure that you get context about things. Like people will come up and say something to me. I'm like, okay, give me a little bit more about that, right? You can't read people's minds, and they need to understand that sometimes, because sometimes people are in their head. They think you know what they're talking about. And sometimes I'll say to people, I'm like, I just want to confirm I can't read your mind. So you got to give me a little bit more info, right? Don't fall into the trap of assuming someone has the same understanding of a situation that you do, right? Because you're thinking and working it out in your head, and you're the only one who thinks like you do. So you can avoid this pitfall by having a conversation about openly discussing what's expected and how it might be accomplished, how success will be measured. Remember to leave plenty of opportunity for questions, because questions you may not need the answers, but someone else may, right? It's kind of like, until you walk a mile in my shoes, you're not going to understand me. It's the same thing, right? This is also the time to agree and commit to what will be delivered, because all of it's out on the table. And when something is going to be completed, when something is going to be completed, it's one of the most common points of miscommunication. Okay. So it's like, I thought this, well, I thought that. Well, no, right from the beginning, you set the expectation. One of the best ways to manage expectations is to make sure that you communicate with everyone on a frequent basis. Like I teach hundreds of students, thousands of students. And if I don't hear from them, I check in with them. I'm like, hey, how's it going? I haven't heard from you in a while. If I don't hear back from them, I'm moving on to the next person. I may check in with them in another few weeks, but I'm not going to chase people, right? So you don't want to over communicate, but you want to stay connected, okay? It's a little bit more work on your part, but it's also going to give you better connection to the people that you're working with, okay? Yeah. Pushing back is okay, by the way. A huge piece of managing expectations is the actual expectation. So you have to be comfortable with expectations being realistic and achievable. If they're not, you can and should push back. Like some people will push you to get more, and you don't want to disappoint them, so you say yes. And I'm like, no. Like people come to me and they're like, well, I've got this opportunity. I want you to be involved in it, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I just don't have time, and I'm really not interested, right? But I'm happy to put a shout out for you. Well, some people are just like, well, I don't understand, because they haven't had the training, right? They haven't had the training to understand why people say no. It's not about them, but you have to understand we only have so many hours in a day, right? So pushing back is okay, as long as you do it in the right way and be open about, why you're not interested or what can be delivered, right? When they already think that there's no reason they shouldn't get what they're looking for from you, right? I literally have had to divorce some of my clients because We go through the same thing every single week after week after week, and they don't do anything, right? And finally, the course ends and they're like, well, can we continue working together? I'm like, sure, but I'm going to charge you a lot of money, because they're not motivated. And it's just like they've been babysat through the whole course expecting me to do it for them, but I'm not. Right. And they're like, oh, well, I shouldn't have to pay any more money. And I'm like, well, you know what? Just keep working through it on your own. You've got all the notes. You've got everything. If you have any questions, let me know. Right. And they don't like that, but they haven't stepped up to do it either. Right. So you have to manage those expectations and be willing to push back when you need to. For me, it's really important that everybody feels they got something out of it and inclusive, but if they don't do the work, I can't help them. Right. I can only be there to support them. Right. So if you can nail the fine art of pushback, you won half the battle of managing expectations successfully. Managing expectations in life. I just want to talk about two things before I finish up here. The first is for yourself. Give yourself time. Make sure that you're spending time with yourself, and that you're not, when you're working on stuff, allow it to process. I mean, I'm the worst for expecting things right now. The worst, right? So I really have to work on my patience. The other thing I want you to think about is managing changing expectations. Stuff changes. Look at change as a blessing, not as a curse. Change allows new things to come in and flow better for you. There's always only the best out there for you. It's how you embrace it that's really going to make the difference. And the third is, don't judge yourself so harshly. We've talked about this in other pods, right? Our lives are ruled by personal expectation from a very young age. We're so hard on ourselves. Give yourself a break, right? Dream big. Allow yourself to step into it at your own pace and when you want, right? Don't judge yourself harshly if you don't make that goal. Just reset things, refocus, and recommit. Okay. And whether you succeed or fail, your overall expectation should be simply to be as learning as you're going. The learning is actually where the key is. That's going to allow the change to happen. And when you're working with others and managing expectations, just remember, communicate about everything, prepare for problems, know that stuff is going to go sideways, and predict others' expectations. You know the people you're working with. You know how they think. If you know their values, you are good to go. So make sure that you're communicating effectively. Managing expectations is definitely a learned habit and will undoubtedly take time to change your mindset. But having the ability to understand and adapt these experiences can actually help you to pursue your own goals in life. So that's it for today. My name is Laura Armstrong. My company is Leadership with Laura. You can reach me at laura@leadershipwithlaura.com. It's been so great chatting to you this morning. I'm here every Thursday on the Diamond Factor Experience with Barbara Beckley at 9 a.m. Eastern. And next week, we are going to be talking about working with difficult people and how you can approach them differently. All right, everyone, have a great week. I will see you soon, and have a great day. Bye for now.
Raise your hand if you've ever been busy. Raise your hand if you've ever got tired and feel like you just need a couple days off. Most people would have both hands up right now. That's our world, fast-paced and income-driven. That's why we get caught up in our own lives so often, and that's why it's understandable when most people don't focus on worries that aren't their own. So what makes someone become a humanitarian? Someone whose whole life focuses on the welfare of other humans.
When you go back and you see kids that were living on the streets, kids had no structure, they had no routine, people who had nothing, they didn't have meals. When you see that they're all of a sudden they're waking up, they have structure, they have something to do, they have a meal in their belly, their life changes completely. They, like I said, their self-esteem changes, their self-worth, their ability to know who they are in the world and what they have the potential of becoming. You know, to give that hope, to give that dream, and then to watch people actually use that to do good for themselves and others it's amazing. It becomes an addiction.
And with Serena's help, we'll find the meaning of life to a humanitarian.
We're back. We are back. So first, I just want to thank Miss Laura Armstrong for coming on every Thursday, doing her tips and skills about leadership. You know, I always tell people, I don't care who you are. You have a leadership within you. You have a trait of leadership in you. You do. If it's in your home, if it's at your job, if it's on your business, if it's dealing with a nonprofit maybe organization, if you're just dealing with children, teenagers, other adults, the list goes on. There's somewhere where you're leading, guiding, helping. A leadership is not a management position. I keep telling people that. There's a difference between manage and leadership. There's a difference in that. When leadership, basically you are helping others to move forward. And sometimes you're pushing them even further or up higher than where you are, whatever level you're at, because you care about their welfare. You care about their learning, what they're getting. You care about the expertise that they're trying to add to their life. And, you know, you're mentoring and guiding and basically encouraging too. So that's basically, that's a leadership type of trait. Sometimes I meet a lot of people that, quote unquote, I'm putting one air quote, that sometimes don't have those particular traits. And they say they're a leader. But we're not going to go there because we don't keep this positive, right? But, you know, even though I'm saying that, that's a learning experience. You know, I had to grow into that. I had to understand a long, long time ago about this traits of a leadership. That's one of the reasons I'm going to give so much kudos to Toastmasters International. That's an organization that I'm still a part of, been a part of for over 10 years, because I know way back when I was Miss Shy, when I didn't know if my voice was important. I didn't know that I had knowledge or anything to give to anybody. You know, I was just basically at my job, just paying attention to my computer, paying attention to making sure I was talking to clients, right? And that was it. I wasn't talking to other people. I was doing none of that because I didn't think I basically was important to do it. So that came deep down inside from a long childhood age when I was getting, you know, when I had those experiences in my life. So I always tell people that, you know, I had to go to a learning of that, of understanding how to be a leader, how to be myself, how to open up, how to have my own voice. I didn't even know my own voice. And it's funny I'm talking about this because we're having an awesome, tremendous queen. I always call lady queens that come on that's going to discuss. We're going to kind of have a discussion about that, about knowing your voice, especially in the young years, in your younger years. In fact, I wished I had Dr. Amanda back then because I really needed her in my teenager years. But then again, that would have been aging both of us. And see, we're too fabulous because we're still young. But I'm just saying, let's just say if I had a type of Dr. Amanda back then, I know I would have probably been further along of understanding who I was. But I did have another teacher that came, which thank God she did, because I was getting heavily bullied between the ages of 8 and 10. And, that's really some very important years of your life as a child. And when you hear those things over and over and over and over and over again in your head, you start believing because no one else is telling you anything different. So I thank God for the teachers out there that stepped up in my life, one of them, to tell me and pull me to the side and said, don't listen to that noise. Don't listen to those other children. They don't know what they're talking about. And she kept saying that I was a diamond in the rough. And that got me to the point of naming my own business now called the Diamond Factor. So that came up, and there's a lot of other stories behind that too, but that started it because she was basically telling me that, I was getting shaped, I was getting molded, but at that time I just thought about, first two things I thought about, the diamond looks pretty. I like diamonds. And so I said, if I'm going to be becoming this diamond, I'm looking forward to it. But why it got to take so long? This is kind of a rough edges here. And then she told me about the diamond story. You know how, diamond, before it comes a diamond, it's this lump of coal. And before that, it has to be shaped. It has to be molded. It has to be cut. And then sometimes it has to be shaped. It has to go under a lot of heat, a lot of pressure. And that's what I was dealing with all my life. And that's what told me right there when I got older, I wanted to make sure that I had a voice and learned my voice, that I wanted other women, especially women, to understand their voice. Because I never wanted anybody else to kind of go through what I went through in that particular thing. Not saying that, I'm not being a victim here. Let's get that corrected now. This is not being a victim. This is being victorious and moving forward, owning it, understanding, and helping others, being that light to shed that light to others. So all women know that, hey, you got a voice, you got a special gift in you, and you got to put it out there because it is special and people need to know who you are. So I can get on my soapbox because I want to make sure I bring this queen on. So we had this discussion because I feel like we're missing out there. But I just want to, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to do more of a different discussion later after the fact, but remember this, feeling positive. And write this down. I'm telling you to write this down, but if you have a piece of paper and pen, write this down. Put R period, E period, A period, L period. That equals real enthusiastic about life. Real enthusiastic about life, about your ability to achieve your goals. This is something I would like for you to put into 2022. Everybody's getting ready for the new year. Everybody's talking about the goals. We hear this every year, but if you stay real, enthusiastic about life, about who you are, take every second of the day, all the goals, everything that's in your mind, everything that you're trying to do in your business, it's going to happen. It might not happen at the time that you want it to, but it's going to happen at the right time. So I just want people to remember that. I'm going to get more in detail. You're going to see this is like an opening thing I'm going to be starting to talk in 2022. But with that, I want to bring on this lady. She's so special. She's been on another show that we have on Tuesdays called Time to Shine with my partner in crime. We call ourselves the BBs, Barbara Ellis. And I just love this lady so much and how she was giving us so much information, and she's just so awesome and amazing. And she's helping put an impact in the world. I wanted to bring her back on to the show that I come on Thursdays or Fridays. So she was so, with her busy schedule, and she had to look and say, okay, let me see if I can fit you in, Barbara. I know, but I just was like, please, Dr. Amanda. And she made a way to come on today. Now, this lady, she is an international speaker. She is a coach. She is a mentor. She specializes in mental health and leadership skills. We were just talking about leadership about that. She has a current book out. Now, I want you to I always ask people when I bring people on and they have products and services and books, very important to support them. Okay. I just don't bring them on just to bring them on. I want you to support them. So her current book is I Am Worth, Valued, and Loved. See, that's why there's the connection there. And another book that's coming out, and I'll probably bring her back if she's willing, for the summer in 2020, 20. I think it came out already. I had to check with her. Silent no longer. Find my voice through complex trauma and shame. That already, just reading that title, that's powerful. And this woman, I mean, she does so much. She has so much experience understanding about teenagers and children. You know what? Let me be quiet. Let me let her say it. But I got to introduce her right. Here she comes, Dr. Amanda. Queen in the house.
Hi, Barbara. It was what a great introduction, and thank you. I loved it. It's such an honor to be here with you today.
I know. I said you're so popular around here in the Diamond Factor LLC world.
Oh, thank you. No, that was great, and I loved your reel. I have it. So, real enthusiasm about life.
Yes,
real 2022. I learned something this morning, so I'm going to use it for 2022.
Good. Please announce this. Shout it out loud to the rooftops of people, because I think that's what's needed right now, especially with everything that's been going on with the last 2 years. So we need to just be real, be enthusiastic about whatever you're doing, and don't beat yourself up if it doesn't get done. See, I've been hearing a lot of people beating themselves up lately, and I'm like, stop it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Miss Doctor, Doctor, we got to make sure we give the experience out there. Dr. Amanda Helman, I am so glad that you came on. There's some things that I really want to really grab a hold of and talk about. But before we get into diving into some of the things that you do and the impact that you give, especially to teenagers and children. And that's what I love about because we need more of you. We need to multiply you a lot of times. Because as I was saying, you probably heard earlier about my own childhood and what I had to go through. And I wish I had people like you, in that vicinity to help, and maybe it would have took as long as it did. But, I learned, I grew, but you're helping teenagers and children now, especially with trauma and what they're dealing with. So before you get into that, kind of tell us why you even decided to kind of just plunge into this particular industry.
Yeah, that's a great question, Barbara. So I was in education. I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was younger. I think I always had a chalkboard and grew up, and I was in education. I thought since 17, because my aunt was a teacher, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go into elementary education. Then I fell in love with working with kids with disabilities. And then I went to school and I continued, but there was a point where people kept saying, wow, you might be a counselor. But because similar to what you were sharing, I had grown up and there was unfortunate childhood traumas and, different bullying I experienced as well. And so I was just, by that time in my life, felt so disqualified and a hot mess that I'm not going to help anybody else. I need help. Who am I going to help? I was in a journey, my healing journey early. And actually it was probably, I think, maturity at the time, because if a lot of times I think people go into it because they've been through things, but if we don't get deeper enough, you actually can continue, it's just painful. So I continue to heal, but I think there is a certain period that gets deeper. So basically what happened was I got through a lot of my healing journey and realized, yes, the very field that I was avoiding, I'm currently getting my master's and after getting my PhD in education. And, yeah, thank you. But it's coming, right now I'm doing internship, but I love it. I love leadership. I love education and mental health. And I feel like there's silos, meaning that we kind of put things in different fields. So this is just for here. And really, if we have simple tools to bring things together, I think a lot of fields is in our language, our responses. And if we understood that actually brings everything else together. And so that's how I got to where I am now. And writing my story was something I never thought I'd do. But I was given a call. I'm a woman of faith as well. And so in 2019, I got the call to write my book. And I had no idea I'd be on the cover. I probably wouldn't have signed up that time. But yeah, so that's how I got to where I am now, Barbara, really to impact people and children. It's just interesting how it all comes together, everything I've done in my life to now.
Yes. Awesome, Dr. Amanda. And you know what I love? Well, I was smiling when you were talking about, got the call about to do the book, didn't know what, I was in that same zone. It seemed like you just have to jump and do it when that call comes. Yep. And then when you do it that way, it always comes out the right way and it always brings that impact. So I'm so glad that you were led to write your book and to have it out there because it's helping, so many others. And that's what I always tell people. I said, while we're just standing back saying, I don't know, what should we cover with the title? You're holding up progress for other people. That's what I say. I said, people are waiting for Dr. Amanda to put it out there so they can read and get through what they're getting through. So I want to go back a little bit because I know you talked about the mental health aspect and leadership aspect. So I know and I've been noticing a lot, some people I've been noticing, they don't take the mental health a little bit serious as they would if you just went in to the doctor for maybe a cold or whatever. They look at mental health like, okay, well, go to a psychiatrist, get on the couch, lay there and do some talking. But they don't understand how deep and important it is to really not shown upon mental health. That's a very serious, it could be disease. So I just wanted to just ask you, because I know you deal with that and you studied that, to kind of take us through a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, I've had different people in my life explain it greatly. My friend Karen at one point had as well, and different counselors. Kind of like you were saying, when we hurt ourselves, physically, right? If we have a cut or we cut ourselves with a knife accidentally, not not cutting, but accidental, cut or you cut your thumb while cutting bread or something, that kind of thing. You go to the doctor. You're not just oh, I'll be fine. I'm good. Let me just let it bleed, right? I mean, let me just let my arm bleed. We'll get stitches, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't think the same way with our brain or anything else. We're oh, it should be the same. It should be, man, I have something that is going on and it's just as impactful as me cutting my thumb and needing to go to the hospital, because then I can get the care I need and then I can actually heal and get better. And I think that as a society, we haven't done that because of many factors. One being the stigma. And I think the stigma because people are afraid that we do think, we do hear, and we do process. And I think people are afraid to admit that sometimes we might have some stress or we might have something that we're thinking. And because you always hear that right on t-shirts, oh, I have this extra thought. And people are like, oh, can't admit that. Okay. So if we do that, all of a sudden we're stigmatized, right? That's different. That's unordinary. And so I think that's a big thing. And I also think another link is that sexual trauma, sexual abuse and abuse in general, for me, I actually think it's more prevalent than we think. It's silence. And that coupled with mental health go hand in hand.
Yes.
That's a big statement I'm making, but I believe that with all my heart, that's why generationally families and people in society are so angry about sexual trauma, and we're so angry about mental health, but we all feel paused or frozen in both because they're so linked.
You know what? I have to say, Dr. Amanda, I totally agree with you on that. Because in both areas, like you said, we both dealt with basically bullying, and then I dealt with, and I don't know if you have too, with sexual abuse in my life. And I even took it when it happened to me in my 20s, it was very harmful to me, but then I still was trying to not think about it. I kind of put it out of my whole mind, thinking I put it out of my whole mind, because I was thinking, first of all, my mother would kill the person that did it. I mean, because that's what my mother was. If she found out. So I kept it from her. My mother never knew till this day, God rest her soul, that she didn't know that I was sexually abused, because I knew that would have changed. I was thinking about her. Again, thinking about others and not thinking about me, and really getting that really hurt out there and getting deep, like you said.
Yeah, and exactly what happened to you is exactly, I believe, what happened either in families, because we do have generational family trauma, right? That happens. It could be physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. That is silence, incestual. And then you have that different things that happen in the family or across families. And back in the day, we didn't share it. They were silenced. You know, even in the older generation now, most people are silenced versus today, where people are now sharing. And there also is a forgetting of it, right? Where we're like, well, we're told to. Like, I've actually had friends say they were told to be silenced, you know, don't talk about it. And so, yeah, like you were sharing, some people never shared with their parents, or they never talked about it and kept that. And that's hard, right? Because that silences our voice. You know, you were talking about voice, and that's a huge part. And it silenced my voice and many people out there, because we're like, where is our voice? And that's what I feel like the society is looking back for. Like, our families are looking for our voice, for sure.
Yeah, it's so that's why I love what you're doing, Dr. Mann, especially in your book and what you do far as in the mental health aspect, because you're trying to, especially with the teenagers and the children, and letting them know you have a voice. And if any trauma has happened, you need to let it out no matter what. Let's deal with it now that you're a child, if it happened to your child, before it gets embedded in you as you're growing.
Absolutely. And I definitely think, because for a lot of us, if we're younger, and there's like research that shows resiliency for young kids, Barbara, but what happens, the word resilience is interesting, because our human brain, when we're young, it protects us. It actually is a protector, that we didn't have to go through all that because we don't have the language, and it would be shock to our bodies. However, it gets uncovered later and it's still a shock. We're older and our body might, you know, the vessel Banner Kolk always says, the body keeps score. So it unlocks things. And so, like you were saying, if we can get that earlier, my heart is to get that stuff done earlier, so that kids who are younger and these things have happened, I actually personally believe they can actually go through that, you know, obviously with people that know how to go through it with them and release it early. They're not going to have to unlock it when they're older and have a whole breakdown. So my passion in life, as I continue in this field, now, you know, obviously getting my master's and getting my other stuff towards it, but that's my passion. You know, I hear the adults, I work with adults now, but I'm like, oh my goodness, it's all rooted back to childhood. You know, hundreds of people I've talked to, even in ministry, it always goes back to the roots of the childhood, and we don't even realize the perceived, even like small events, how we think we heard something and we attach, it's a feeling then, and we didn't process our feelings. So yeah.
You know, you said, this is so good. I love this conversation. But what you said about processing is so important to do that, because we always look at, you know, how they say people deal with the symptom, but they don't deal with the root of things.
Yes.
So we're always putting that little band, I call it putting the Band-Aid on everything. So now you got all these Band-Aids all over you, and nothing underneath got healed. Right. It's just like it's still there, you know, and you have to really dig deep. That's why I always tell people, let's dig deep. Yes. What's really the problem, you know, because you see it, you know, with action with people. I mean, I seen it with myself, you know, just going back to me as an example, that, you know, there's a lot of things in my life that I said, different relationships and stuff. And all that was brought out because of the trauma that I dealt with, that I pushed to the side, or I didn't talk about, or really say, okay, Barbara, you got a problem here and you need to fix this, and you need to talk about it. You need to go somewhere. So, you know, and I think another thing, just let me know this too, Dr. Mann, how you feel about this. Maybe people do being ashamed, you know, of what happened. So they don't want to talk because they're ashamed.
Yeah, shame is a big thing. Shame, even for families, shames for even perhaps people who were offenders, people who were in like, if there are people who have done the offense, right? Like maybe had done, call them perpetrator, whatever it is, but they also most likely are acting out what has happened to them, but never got the help. Not saying it's okay, but this is where the cycles happen. Barbara, like looking at that. But yeah, I would say definitely when we're looking at that, there are how we respond to our responses back then, our responses to what happened to us will continue based on like how we believe about ourselves at all times. All day long, we operate in what we believe about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so if we've had a skewed image of that as because of abuse, that'll come out.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to, I've been learning too, as I deal, and you probably have too, when you're dealing with your clients or people you're talking to, that there might be certain, like if they get upset quickly or just anything, and you have to, some people might write them off and be like, you know what, I don't deal with that. They seem like they got, the first thing, well, they got issues, they got problems. And then you write them off. But then you have to look deep inside and say, there's a reason why. That's that symptom again. There's a reason why they're upset or they're angered or their patience is short or they don't want to, certain things they don't want to deal with. And when you dig a little bit, you find out their story, as I always say, that's when it comes and say, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And if it's whether it be rage, because that could be like, I never have my voice, I'm angry, but there's people are raging. There's something behind the rage, right? Heartbreak, grief. And if you have someone who's quiet or feeling like they can't talk, there might be terror and fear and, feeling like they're always shut up and couldn't talk. So like there's two spectrums, like you said, and the symptoms do come out. But yeah, and that's the hard thing is like you have to want to. And I think like I hear all the time people say, I'm not ready. And you're telling yourself that, but what you're doing is yes, like healing is a process, but if you're so afraid of even doing it, what are you going to lose? You're just losing your true evolving of yourself. And, so why did I say I'm ready? I said I'm ready because I was done. Something had to shift. And I'm like, I don't want these cycles. And it was painful to do, but I gave myself permission to be ready. And the second thing is like, I want to be ready because I want my future, right? I want this for my kids. I want to break generational patterns and chains. And if I don't start, then what? And so I think that was a huge motivation for me. It was like, something has to be different and across family lines. And I say there's 8 billion people on the planet, Barbara, and 8 billion people need different types of counseling, mentors, coaching, you name it. We all are human. We all need something to help us. So there you have it.
Yeah, I just want to before I let you just express a little bit more what you do in your services. I just want to get back to a little bit about the leadership part of it, and when you talk about I was just talking earlier about leadership, and a lot of people get I put air quotes here about what leadership means. So I want you to explain on your end what you see, how leadership, what that really means.
Yeah, that's a great question. Leadership requires a lot. For me, first, it's loving. Learning how to love me took a lot to love others. It takes a lot of humility. And when I'm going to make decisions, but am I hearing other people? Where's my heart motives with it? And if I do make any type of mistakes or anything, being accountable and serving well goes with that. Love, humility, and serving well. And I think it's also being an ongoing learner, that I don't have all the answers, but I'm wanting to get the answers. And my heart is that I want to hear the community, but I'm also going to be making decisions that serves the best of the community and accepting that everybody's going to agree with me, but can I love them all? And can I love people who have different beliefs than me? And so the 4 leadership summit, summarizing it for me, would be the loving well, humility, serving, and listening.
Yes. And that's why I'm so glad you really put that in perspective, because a lot of times I was saying earlier too, that people get managed and leadership totally off as too separate, way too separate. And in management, they throw the management definition into leadership, and then it's really just that's totally off. So I'm glad that you said those aspects, those characteristics of what a leadership is. And I just want to just say, Dr. Amanda, that again, and I mean this so much, that thank you for giving your heart of a call that you got for you to help others get them through the traumas and really walk them through that, because we need that so much more these days. A lot of the issues and things and challenges that people are dealing with, they really have to understand. They just have to just dig deep. Don't be ashamed of it, and find Dr. Amanda so you can help them through it. So Amanda, before we close out today, I want to take myself down just for a minute, and I just want you to, just any lasting thoughts, and then how they can contact you.
Sure. And is it okay if I share my? Oh, sure. So I would love to have you all contact me. You can at amanda@amandahelman.com. You also can get a hold of me at, it's www.calendly.com/Amanda/496. That's to get a 1 hour free session with me to see what it's all about. Or you can check my website out. It's www.amandahelman.com, which is on the screen below. And certainly I do have coaching. I do sessions, and also author breakthrough. I really am one who, if you have something and you're breaking through in your business or your personal life or any emotional barriers, I am your woman. I've worked with men, women, children, and I'm passionate, and they have breakthrough within sessions. One session, starting to believe and have confidence and release those old emotions or even anxiety, believe it or not, from events, and they actually don't have those later, and they get to the roots of things. So if you like, certainly get in contact with me. And I also have my book available, Silent No Longer, Finding My Voice After Complex Trauma, and that's available on Amazon. So thank you so much for that time, Barbara.
Awesome, lady. Awesome. Yes, I'm glad you showed your book. I should have. I was going to tell you, please make sure you show your book. This is what we do. This is what I love to do, is make sure that I show the queens of what they do and support them in their products and services. So thank you so much for explaining that. And again, this is me telling the audience now, support Dr. Amanda. You see the greatness she has. You see her heart. You see the gift she has. Help and support. And if you know anybody that is dealing, even yourself or others, family members, friends, colleagues, that you see that there's something there that maybe they need to, open up at, just reach out. Dr. Amanda has many different services. And like you said, you can get with her and get a meeting with her, and then she can just walk you through some things. Yeah. So Dr. Amanda, I want to wish you a wonderful New Year's. I'm just looking at this 2022 coming, and I'm like, oh my God.
I know, it's coming. It's coming in less than 2 days. I know, tomorrow night, midnight. But yeah, Barbara, this has been wonderful. I really enjoyed this interview. I'm honored that you asked me back. It was wonderful to talk to you, and I have the reel down, right? I learned something from you. Like I said, you're always learning, and certainly enjoyed this conversation. So thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for listening. I hope you're all well and you have an amazing year, and as well as you, Barbara. I'm really looking forward to 2022 and abundant life in this next year.
And this is next year. And just real quickly, I'm going to say it right here. I want to bring you on again in 2022. So we'll work that out, see what happens, so we can, really keep up with you and any other thing that you want to bring to the audience. So I'll definitely be keeping in touch with you.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, you have a wonderful Thursday and a wonderful New Year's.
Yes, you too. Bye.
Bye. I'm hanging on your every word. The love inside, I feel it burn. I've never felt this way before. I've had a taste, now I want more. So here we are, just you and me. I'm overwhelmed when you touch me. You talk so sweet, I hear the sound. 'Cause when you do, my feet won't touch the ground.
just dancing. That was wonderful. Dr. Amanda, thank you, ladies, so much for coming on today, having a conversation with me. I know, usually, those type of things we say it's an interview, but I like saying conversations. We're having a talk. We're just talking. And that's what we did. And again, I just want to express again, if you feel that something that you've been kind of putting to the side, just like Dr. Amanda was talking about a little earlier, and you were dealing with something, you're like, you know what? I really think I need to get this out. I really think that there's some things deep inside I need to deal with. Deal with it. It's going to make you feel so much freedom. So much freedom. I'm telling you, when I finally understood that my voice counts, even though a lot of people, even today, some people think my voice don't count. But you know what? A long time ago, I used to be like real timid with that and say, well, maybe you're right. Because that history was coming back in my head, those little gremlins. And I said, no, that's you. That's your opinion. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to move forward in my life. You are not going to stop me. You're not going to put no roadblocks in my life so I don't move the way I need to, because there's somebody out there, like billions of people out there, somebody I know I can touch, and they'll understand my story, where I went, what I went through, so to help them and create an impact to help them out. So shame on you for trying to shut me down, and shame on you for trying to shut other people down that's not in your world, as I call it. So remember that each and every one of you out there, each and every one, you're awesome. You have a gift in you, a gift. You have that purpose, that passion, and that drive. And that drive, I always say, is basically the things, the trauma and stuff. We talk about the trauma and things that we went through, but that also builds you up to be so strong. Don't let it victimize you. Let it victorious. Be victorious in it. So people know that, you came out of the rubble. You came out of that and said, you know what? I had made a decision. And I said, I'm going to move forward in this. And I want to show others that they can move forward in it. There's so many people dealing with so many mental issues that you don't even understand. And I think when people hear mental health or mental issues, they're like, oh, I'm not crazy. Oh, you think I'm this? Well, I don't have to go to no counselor. You know what? Put that to the side. This is about you and your life. This is what you have to do for yourself. It is not only for yourself. It was Dr. Amanda was saying, people are waiting on you to step up because they need you. They need to know that they can be okay. They need to know that they can open up with any issues that they had, any generational curses, whatever's going on, that they can be able to stop and say, I need some help. Nothing's wrong with saying, I need help. It's funny how we get help when we're young and we go to school and we got teachers around us and we got other counselors and stuff and we're getting all this help. But then we get older, it's like all of a sudden we get this little thing and say, well, I don't need it anymore. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I always need people to come in my life to give me, like we said, it's forever, ever, ever, ever learning. So do what you have to do to step up. And you see, I'm on my soapbox. But I want to leave you back with this. Now, this wasn't my original thought. I got to give credit where credit's due. I got to make sure I say her last name right moving forward. Mary Ellen Shavazovic. Hopefully I said, this is her book. This is my little, I call it my little positive Bible, was Taking Responsibilities, Unleashing True Healing. This book has saved me. I'm telling you, there's just so much good stuff in here. So one of the things that what she has in here, the Queen, is feel positive. Like I said, there's real, REAL, R.E.A.L, real, enthusiastic about life. Let's take that into 2022, shall we? Let's do that. Let's take that into the new year. About your ability to achieve your goals, your ability to achieve your goals. You are not on nobody's time frame except your own. Remember that. No one's time frame except your own when it comes to your goals. Pessimistic thoughts easily become real life roadblocks. Negative attitude can grow to become reflected in everything you do. When you view the world optimistically, it is impossible to feel helpless or out of control. A positive, real, REAL, attitude inspires you to look for opportunities. Look for opportunities. Look for opportunities. And take advantage of challenging personal and or professional projects. Take advantage of that. Any difficulties the universe, God, puts in your path, can be handled with your positive, empowering attitude. Ooh. I gotta underline that. I love that. That was good. I gotta say that again. Any difficulties the universe, God, puts in your path can be handled with your positive, empowering attitude. Positive, PEA, positive, empowering attitude. Today, allow your attitude to carve a path that leads you to success. So what leads us? Let's ask that question. What leads us to success? Our attitude, how we take on things, the decisions that we make. Attitude is so important. So have that attitude in your life to say, I need to make sure I'm good. I need to do a check-in with myself. Whatever hurts, trauma, whatever that you're dealing with, don't feel ashamed of it. Let it out. Talk it out. Go to somebody that you trust. Talk to Dr. Amanda Helm. Talk to somebody, that you feel comfortable with and get it out because you're so special. You're so special. We all have a unique gift in us. And sometimes when all that happens, we get it cluttered up and we push it down and then we don't let it out. And then things that you're supposed to be doing with your special gift is a roadblock there. Let's take away that roadblock. Okay? So with that, wow, one more show. The other Diamond Factor tomorrow before 2022. So tomorrow I'm doing a special remix tomorrow. I'm going to be showing the day that we celebrated our 1-year anniversary for having the Diamond Factor Experience show under E360 TV. I'm so just proud of that milestone that had happened for this year. So I'm going to be playing that. You're going to be hearing different people come on of what they got out of the show, what, moving forward, some of the experts I had on with me, and we celebrated a year. I tell everybody, celebrate your little victories to your biggest victories because, they always say celebrate your little victories, but I always say every victory is a big victory because it moved you from one place to the next. So celebrate all your victories. So that I will be putting that on to celebrate that we celebrated the 1 year. And then after that, we go right into next Monday, which we starting off the new term, the new year off, right? So we're here every day, 8:00 Central Time, 9:00 Eastern Time, all the other time zones. I always tell people, please just kind of figure that out. Go on your phone, figure it out. But with that, I'm going to close out for today. I will see you tomorrow. And always remember how special you are. Remember that you have a purpose with your passion and your drive. Take that as your foundation, and you can go so many places and impact so many people in this world. See you tomorrow.